पहली बार मेरा कन्वर्सेशन है किसी से ऐसा, एज ए फॉर्मल कन्वर्सेशन कभी नहीं हुआ।
नहीं, हमको आदत है कि हम नॉर्मल इनफॉर्मल चीज को भी बहुत जल्दी फॉर्मल कन्वर्ट करते हैं, बहुत तेज। तो हमसे इनफॉर्मल कन्वर्सेशन नहीं हो पाती किसी से। हम घुमा फिरा के उसको फॉर्मल कर देते हैं, स्टैंडर्डाइज कर देते हैं, एब्स्ट्रैक्ट बना देते हैं। तो लैंग्वेज आपको कौन सा सही रहेगा, इंग्लिश हिंदी क्या? जनरली हम इंग्लिश रखते ताकि ज़्यादा लोग को समझ में आ पाए, लेकिन अब उसको लेके इंडिया का पॉपुलेशन के हिसाब से गलत चीज़ सोच रहा हूँ। इंग्लिश वुड बी बेटर। Okay, so given the resources that you have asked me to read regarding that book, Death of Ivan Ilyich, given that I have not read it, so it will be good if you give me a brief of it so that I can build my thoughts upon that.
First of all, it's written by a Russian author, Leo Tolstoy. You might have heard of him. You possibly would have heard of him. So he talks about how a man is punctual in everything that he does. Okay, he
Hmm.
tries to be a good father, he tries to be a
Hmm.
good son, and he
Hmm.
tries to be a good like person. He tries to be a good officer. He tries to be a good administrator. He has landed up a very big job in Russian Federation, and then he tries to be the best there. So at the end, when he's on his deathbed, okay, the excerpt that I wrote on that was probably inspired from there. So when he's on his deathbed, he says that now that everything is done, only death is left. So he tries to be perfect in his death too.
Hmm.
Okay. And now the thought that intrigued me is how can someone be perfect in his death?
Hmm.
Okay, so I came to a conclusion, very like I did not think upon it much, but I came to a conclusion that either the death is painful or the consequences leading to it. There's no other option. Because when you see, he suffered for about 2 months or 3 months, and everyone was like sympathizing to him that his wife was also sympathizing, his daughter was also sympathizing, his son was also sympathizing, and that was very painful for him because he knew that they are only sympathizing because I am going to be dead. There's I'll tell you a very like interesting fact in about Indian Constitution. There's a like a philosophy in Indian Constitution that when you announce a death penalty to someone, like
Hmm.
capital punishment to someone, you have to commit it as soon as possible. Because if you do not commit it, then it would be a torture. When you tell someone that you're going to be death and you do not commit it at the recent possible, then it's a torture on him or her or anybody.
About the concept of perfection with respect to death, that book explores. So, given that he achieved perfection in most of his life by default, that was in his capabilities. But when it came to death, then he was not even able to figure out what would be a perfect death. So, did book give some example or some theorem of what is a good death?
No,
What is a
he
perfect
didn't give
death?
any example. The book talked about that you cannot be perfect in every aspect of life.
Okay.
That's why it said na, that you cannot be a perfect daughter too. You cannot be a perfect son. You cannot be a perfect father. You cannot be a perfect husband, and you cannot be a perfect administrator altogether.
Hmm.
So you cannot perfect everything in the life, and hence you cannot perfect death. The conclusion was this, or what
Okay, so
conclusion
basically
I got.
he thinking that he was perfect in all of the things that he did till death was actually imperfect.
Huh,
So basically death made everything imperfect. Okay, good
yeah.
book. Hmm. Illusion of
So that's why I
perfection
want
was
you to read about it.
broken just, yeah, illusion of perfection was broken just before he
Just
could
before.
have left the world with the illusion in his mind. Okay, now I get the point. Now coming to the point that we were supposed to discuss about realities for philosophy or philosophies for
Hmm.
reality. So first, how do you
Hmm.
understand this statement? Let me know that.
It's the same chicken egg problem, I think.
Okay,
Am
but
I right or wrong?
that problem is
Chicken egg problem,
solved,
right? Egg
and
came first or chicken first?
that problem is solved. That problem is
No.
different. It can have some logical
Okay, so
reasoning behind that, but in this there cannot be some logical reasoning because philosophy and reality both are one of the epitome of subjectivity a person can experience. But chicken egg, it's not subjective, it's
hmm.
subjective.
Hmm, 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 hmm. So first you enlighten me, and then I'll. tell you what I understood.
I'm going to evolution aspect. Before the time humans were able to philosophize things, then also reality existed.
Hmm.
But then human came with
Hmm.
their consciousness, with their cognition, and they started making things out
Hmm.
of it. So reality came then. The
Hmm.
philosophy came, and once the a group of people made some philosophies, a set of constructs, and they were already celebrated in the society because of some like irrelevant thing. Like if someone is like Marcus Aurelius, he is emperor,
Hmm.
and he made some philosophies.
Hmm.
So people will follow his philosophy not because the philosophies are correct, but because he's emperor. So they are making
But because.
wrong correlations, irrelevant. It's like asking
Hmm.
an actor what to like some irrelevant thing, how to go to space, that kind of thing. So because he's celebrated in one aspect, people thought that he's also good in other aspects, and due to this, they took their philosophy and tried to make their reality as per them. So this thing led to, like, now they are trying to shape their reality as per philosophy, and after they have kind of shaped it because of like forcefully, then now they are trying to make a new philosophy out of the reality that they have got, and now they make their own philosophy. So it's like now the domino effect came into. So
Loop.
who came first was reality. There was a simple set of equations, simple set of causalities that was happening in the world, some logics that were going on, and then people interpreted it. Some people, they made their own uh, interpretations of those logics or interpretations of those actions, causalities, and they call it philosophy. And then the loop thing, the domino thing. This is what I think.
So you're saying that the way we have perceived the reality, okay,
Mm-hmm.
through some philosophy, the way we have perceived the reality has came later than philosophy, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
reality existed, but
Mm-hmm.
we perceived it after there was some philosophy to let it perceive us. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Matlab, I agree to it. And the reason you said na wrong, people interpreted it wrong. So I said to you that philosophy has lost to explain us. Philosophy did not succeed as it has as it had to succeed, right? Because yesterday I was reading this book by Nisha, and there he talks about the same thing what Plato talked about, like what is real and what is the real truth. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
the way we have perceived and the way we have constructed everything around us, the way we have constructed the reality, we still are asking the same question even after these many philosophers, these many eminent personalities who talked about such things, and we are asking the same questions again and again, like what is real. So has it not failed us?
No, for this, I find a different reason than what you're stating. I think people are not agreeable to philosophical concepts as much as they are agreeable to scientific concepts, because philosophy is more subjective. If I know that this is not reality and I have not experienced it from my own ways, don't have realization of that understanding, I will not believe it. But even if I don't believe of some physics thing that there are some stars that exist in the universe,
Mhm.
but science tells me that they exist, so I don't have any problem in it, because that is an objective fact. Because philosophy is more
Yes, yes.
of subjective, and we cannot accept something that we don't actually have realization of. The problem of realization and knowledge, as I talked in earlier video, that is why I think philosophy has, what appears to be, has failed to pass over generation or to pass over time, and it
Mhm.
still seems to
Mhm.
be there only where it was in the times of Plato. And but it's not completely true as well. The objective part of subjectivity that we have at the moment in philosophy, those things have evolved. Earlier we had some philosophies that were not complete, they were lacking some concepts. Now people have modified their concepts to work to explain the reality. Now the best example I think of it is the whole science or the whole paradigm of panpsychism. Initially there was Descartes' problem of dualism, then finally Western philosophers also agreed or got to the conclusion of panpsychism. Then the last update that I got was from a philosopher, Donald Hoffman. He was trying to explain, or he saw panpsychism from an angle that helped to us to like do things of AI things. How can we understand intelligence using panpsychism concept and being aware kind of thing. So basically he has modified the philosophy for the current structure. It's not like there is no progress in philosophy, and the same philosophy still exists. The same philosophical problems still exist. The problem that philosophy had earlier times They were explaining it from the like it's like what solution we want from philosophy, that solution we make from philosophy. That's the simple thing.
Hmm.
Earlier we wanted different
That
solutions, so we made different solutions. Now we want different solutions, so we are making different solutions. I'm saying this in contradiction to what you're saying, that philosophy has kind of failed to transcend over generations. I don't think that philosophy has not failed. It is different thing. Again, apple and oranges. Science can do it. That does not mean that philosophy has also to do it, because they're
philosophy
different
can
things.
do. Yeah, yeah, that is for sure. And I'm not saying failed on an individual level, because whatever philosophers and people you're talking about, that are just few chunks of people who are thinking about that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they are modifying the things that were already present, and uh, stating the things that were already present in a better way, and even evolving the idea of philosophy in the real world. But on a mass level, or we can say that if he leaves that chunk of people, that particular chunk of people, what about the others? Looking at philosophy requires something other than looking, na. Even Plato says
Mm-hmm.
that it requires something else than looking, because by looking at something you cannot philosophize that thing. You have to look in
Mm-hmm.
some other way, and you have to think in some other
Abstraction.
way.
Yeah.
So abstraction, exactly. So where it has brought us, on a mass level, was it successful or not?
On a mass level, it has never been useful. That's why on mass level we have always present philosophy. It is not useful for a milkman to philosophize about his life. It is not useful for
But
him.
again the same thing comes, na, because we have constructed our realities according to that, that it doesn't seem to be useful.
The system
So
was basically designed in a way that uh, how religions came into action, that some people will do some task and other people will do their task, and who is not the expert of their own field will listen to the people who are the expert of their field. I will listen to a milkman. How should I keep my milk in fridge, or I should keep outside? And a milkman will listen to a philosopher, that which reality he should believe in. So that has always been the case on the mass level, given that okay, now coming to computation part, philosophy is way more computational than other things that has been done. If we go in the structures of our academia, then also PhDs at top. Philosophizing a topic is the hardest part in from mathematics to computer science. So this is the most complex task, like big n square, like it requires a lot of complexity computation basically. So it is useless to do the same computation all the time, but we can do less computation things multiple times. The concept between risk and risk. That is why on the mass level philosophy seems to be failing, because it is too expensive to be done by all. So only few people are supposed to do it, and they are supposed to tell others. The problem here comes again, the intermediator problems. Like there is one extreme of the high computational person, and the other extreme of less computational person. The middle person, who are neither very computational nor very like working hard working, like with respect to their body, they want best of this world also and best of this world also, and for that they tend to ruin this world also, and they tend to ruin this world also, and whole chaos of politics comes. So politics is between, is like the middleman who creates chaos, takes philosophy, ruins it, and then gives it to people. So that's why philosophy has failed. Again, I don't think it has failed because of the reasons that you're mentioning, that it is not very applicable, and it requires abstraction that is that is not very much useful to people. People can do it. It is not necessary for all to do it. That's why. And the if I have to blame someone, if I have to put someone to fault, then it's the fault of the middleman who has ruined everything and who has kept on ruining every time, every time, every time.
I would like to take up your point, the person who is more hardworking according to their body, or who is on the extreme end of the philosophy.
Hmm.
He understands philosophy and then preaches it to the middlemen or the others.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, then what about how would they understand it? Because every time a philosopher had tried to preach it to the mass level,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
it failed again.
Hmm.
It happened with Socrates,
Hmm.
poisoned.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
it happened with Nietzsche.
Yeah,
Yesterday I told you
I
about him
was
reading that book.
making the
So
joke.
he says that I was in a forest for 10 years, and then
Hmm.
I thought, sorry for that. Then I thought that I would go and preach it to the public, because what use is of sun if it is not for the cave or the people or for the serpent?
Hmm.
Okay, so he goes on and he returns to the village, and he founds a saint in between. And the saints ask him that why are you going. So he said that I want to teach others what I have learned. And he says that do not return, they will corrupt you.
Hmm.
So everyone has talked about it. Like they used to call it now, because we have constructed our realities as such that everything outside of the reality we call the person madman, or like
Hmm.
anything, he is not one from us. So
Okay.
how will you preach the middleman that?
I don't know if I'm biased with respect to Hinduism, but I like the concept of Hinduism in this. I've been talking about Dashra Shukla from way too long, Kushal Shukla. Uh,
Hmm.
okay, so basically, what I like to say here is everyone, as I said, everyone has their own specific talents. Physicist knows how to do the research, but he does not know how to make satellites out of the research. And there is supposed to be an engineer who is supposed to make the satellite, but he does not know how to make it useful to people. And then there is this businessman who is supposed to make it useful to people also, but businessman cannot do the scientist work, scientist cannot do the businessman work. It's like that. With respect to philosophy, as I said, the middleman, the preacher or the philosopher should never try to explain his thoughts to anyone, to the general people. Other extreme, you can never jump from A to B directly, you'll have to go through a middle path. And that's why there is supposed to be a middle person who understands first philosophy from the philosophical person, and then he converts it, makes I guess religion out of it, or makes some rule book out of it, and then they give it to the normal people. If directly philosophy will start giving, then they will get mad. And if philosophy will try to understand the common people and try to make their understandings like them, then they will go corrupt. So there should be a mediator in between. In Hinduism, what I see this in all set of incarnations of God, the Shiv is generally referred to the scientist who just make philosophies. There's this Krishna who comes to the world and tries to give it to people through examples, stories, and all the things that it can create. And there are the Brahma kind of thing who tries to enforce it by making strict rules, Shastra. And this is another analogy that I think I should write it down in somewhere. How Upanishads are pure philosophy, and as we move on towards Shastra, philosophy decreases and implementation increases. And then there's this middle ground of Gita, where is equivalent amount of philosophy and equivalent amount of implementation. So this always happens. And to for your like, how should we implement it? How can normal people or the masses can get philosophies is through the middleman, and that middleman should be always good. Krishna should be Krishna. No one is completely engineer and no one is completely scientist. So it's about the dominant trait that they have. That's a good way by which both can be happy. So it's like engineers are majorly engineer, but they also have scientific qualities. You cannot say that they're not scientific, but it does not really matter to say that. But my basic point is that there's the middleman. The Krishna should be good enough, because if only Shiv is good, it will not work out. The Krishna is very essential in that sense.
Okay, so that means matlab, this statement is like direct denial of Socrates, of the philosopher king concept of Socrates. So the does Socrates Socrates, or was it Plato? I am not sure, but one of them talked about philosopher king, like how a king should be a philosopher. So was he talking about the idea of philosopher being a king or king being philosopher?
Okay, I am not aware of this
Because
thing.
if it is like you say that a philosopher should never come to the this end, then
Mm-hmm.
it's directly a denial of Socrates. And I think that he was correct in this statement, that a philosopher should be a king, because he will know the best, like the way it has been corrupted through ages, like through constructs and constructs. It would not have been possible if it wouldn't have happened if a philosopher would have been the king, or would have been the middleman.
Plato wasn't biased because he was ignorant of general relativity. He had no way to gather that information. His ignorance did not arise from the shape of his mental machinery. But if Plato believed that philosophers would make better kings because he himself was a philosopher, and this belief in turn arose because of a universal adaptive political instinct for self promotion, and not because Plato's daddy told him that everyone has a moral duty to promote their own profession to governorship, or because Plato sniffed too much glue as a kid, then that was a bias, whether Plato was ever warned of it or not. Biases may not be cheap to correct. They may not even be correctable. but where we look upon our own mental machinery and see a casual account of an identifiable class of errors, and when the problem seems to come from the evolved shape of the machinery, rather from there being too little machinery or bad specific content, then we call that a bias.
Like
Then yeah, then that one, what we are referring as philosopher, he will neither be a pure philosopher, neither will be a good king. Because if he's a good king, then he's not a good philosopher. Because it's like, okay, the example that I give generally to people who want to open a startup, and there are some people who are good at making products and some people who are good at selling it, basically. So, and the best example that I know of it is Tesla. He made good product, but he was not a good seller. He was not a marketman, and that's why he got ruined. There are a lot of person who just sell things. Edison, they don't know how to make products. They should both work in like together. If either one of them try to do the job of other, they will just create chaos. And that's why I think I don't know who like Plato or Socrates gave this theorem or gave this concept of philosopher king, and has it actually been implemented, and it has actually worked, because I don't think it can ever work in a society. It is not possible. It is not possible for someone to do two things. Basically, I want to say that.
would you call Aurelius a middleman or a philosopher?
A single person can be two things at two different times. Initially, someone can be king. There's this example of Ashoka I heard. Initially, he was something else, then he turned out to be something else. I have not read about Marcus Aurelius' life as much as I've read about his philosophy, so I don't know at which stage of life, at which stage of his life he was born.
I have read about his life, and he was doing the both of the things at the same time. Not from a philosophical perspective. He was like motivating himself in order to like be a better king or be a better person in life. But then again, the same thing: was he a philosopher or not, or was he a good king or not? Because if this thing is present in philosophy, that a person cannot be both a middleman or a philosopher at the same time, then we really have to come to a conclusion about what Marcus Aurelius was, because that would somehow give us an answer that is it possible or not for a philosopher to be a king or like a good king, because he obviously was a good king. He ruled Rome and he changed Rome completely.
Okay. As I said, I don't know about Marcus Aurelius the king as much as I know about Marcus Aurelius the philosopher. And obviously, I can say that he was a good philosopher. But you are confirming the same for him being a good king. So that, I guess, marks him as a Gettier case, an exception who can do both. But there might, like, he could have been a better philosopher. Like, if he had just focused on philosophy, he could have been an even better philosopher. Or if he could focus on king, he could have been an even better king. So again, it's about dividing resources. If you just focus on one thing more properly, you'll be able to do it way better than if you focus on multiple things. And especially if the things are not very complementary to each other. Focusing on two like completely opposite things will not help. If you don't if you are studying physics and you're studying mathematics that are complementary, that's okay. That is good to focus on two things because they're actually one thing at the base. So, but if you're focusing on two complete different things and you're trying to do both things, you'll fail at one of them. Or if you'll not fail, then you'll be like mediocre at both of them. So, if at mediocre stage, Marcus Aurelius was a good philosopher, and mediocre stage, he was a good king. So, if he would have just been a philosopher, then he would have been some next level philosopher, I guess.
Doesn't it make him a good king than others? Like others who don't have philosophy in their mind.
It also makes him a better philosopher than others because other philosophers just came, said, and gone. He at least did something out of it.
Exactly. So, wouldn't it have created a better society for us, like through ages?
That depends upon what is the intention of the philosopher is. Does he want to? Is he doing philosophy for people's good, or is he doing philosophy for the sake of philosophy? Like for me, I don't care if my philosophies are being used, if the things I'm doing used for people or for masses. I don't care for masses in general. But if I would care and if I would not be a good king, then that would be a problem. The terminal goal problem, basically. No terminal goal can be wrong. For Marcus Aurelius, his terminal goal or his final goal might be to care for people because he was emperor. But for other philosophers, that might not be the terminal goal. Their terminal goal could be just like, I have thought about these things, I know this concept, I know this truth, I want to tell it to people. That's all. Now, how people perceive it, do they really implement it properly in their life? It's all people problem. Like, this is what I generally do also. recently there was this problem of AI safety and AI governance, and my part is technical part, AI alignment. So there was this question that we were discussing that should we stop AI alignment until AI governance catch up? And in the whole meeting I got like infuriated and angry on this, that why should we stop if they are not capable of doing their work? So my point being, they should do their work and we are doing our work. If they are not capable, like if a king is not capable of doing a philosopher's job, or the middleman is not capable of properly importing, then that's the middleman problem. It's not like now I will stop being the philosopher and I will start come doing this thing. So my point basically here is that Marcus Aurelius did what he could, because his terminal goal was to do that. But most philosophers, in general philosophers, it's like कर्म करो फल की इच्छा मत करो. If we are doing philosophy to get outcome out of philosophy, then we are focusing on the outcome, not on the philosophy. In the current times, how many examples do you know of a good king and a good philosopher? Okay, in all times, how many examples do you know of a good king and a good philosopher? Generally, you can either find a good king or you can either find a good philosopher.
Through time, realities have been corrupted, so it's very difficult to find at the present time, and even at the span of history, it's very difficult to find both in a single person. But yeah, that was an exception, and it gave some thought. But
Except for that exception, one thing I can sense that we are understanding different is, what do we mean by actually a good king and good philosopher? When I say when I say good king, I don't mean that Marcus Aurelius was a good king. That is like an positive king, or more impactful king. But a good king is someone like, I don't know the names of kings, but who like all the England people, they are killing people and they are taking their land. He's a good king because he's doing good for his people. He doesn't give any shit about other people. So that he's a good king actually. But in case of Marcus, he's like a positive king, impactful king. There are philosophers who don't care about people. They are just doing their philosophy, Spinoza and all. They don't care how it is implemented. So that is a good philosopher. Marcus Aurelius was an impactful philosopher. So he was not a good philosopher. He was an impactful philosopher. He was not a good king. He was impactful king. He got practicality in philosophy and he got philosophy in practicality. Yeah. So he was basically just a very good middleman in that sense. Extremely good middleman.
Yeah, so we need middlemen like him.
Yeah.
And your thought, like, what is a good king, right? So a good king in itself is a very philosophical thing to talk about, because a good thing is also very subjective. Gave the example of England, so benefiting your own people by destroying others, the colonial or the imperial impact of England. It's like no one needs to know what they did. So like they cannot be called a good king from the moral aspect.
Now it's linguistic problem, I guess. King, the term king is supposed to mean king, not a positive king or a philosopher. A good philosopher will not kill their people for other people, but that's not how king is defined. King means he is in charge of something and he should take care of that thing. That, like, his terminal goal is to take care of that thing, not of the other thing. And if he fails to take care of his things, then he's a bad king. And like, it's again terminal problem, Goldman's Johnson problem. It is not necessary. It is not defined for him how should I take care of his things. He should kill the world for taking his care of his things. He should also save it. It is not important for him. He is indifferent to the world. He is just concerned with his things. If he will have to kill the world for taking care of his things, he will do that. If he'll have to save the world for taking care, he will do that, because he's king. He's not philosopher.
That's where law comes in, na? Because law is framed according to the philosophy, and that's where it comes in. Because like the way you are defining him a king, na, then in that way Gaza is also justified, and so that's why we have a chunk of philosophy in our political world, that is law.
Most of the times when humans try to mix two things, that is philosophy or king thing and all this thing, they tend to make rules, basically law. And given that rules have the innate problem of good hearting, they cannot be properly formulated and all, and there's this problem of law failing multiple times. So here my point being, I guess when I was saying the term king, I was meaning the evolutionary terms of king, or the leader of a group. That is what we mean by king. Leader of a group of his own tribe, that's all. But when that tribe changes to a civilization, then that the leader changes to king. And for this change to happen, there should be an intermediate layering of philosophy, and to
Philosophy.
merge this philosophy in king and tribe, there should be law. So this is how it is all designed. But in doing all of these things, like coming from animal instincts to being human, what we are trying to
Hmm.
do by law, that is the problem. We are not able to succeed in that properly. That is why we are creating chaos.
Uh, that's why it got corrupted now, because we started using philosophy for the sake of power, and that's where it got corrupted, because
Middleman
philosophy was
problem it
not
is.
middleman problem, exactly. So philosophy was not limited to the idea of reality anymore. It was all for power. So I think the place where it changed was Oedipus. Have you heard of him? Oedipus the king. There
Mhm.
are three plays of Sophocles. Sophocles was a literary writer, and there was three plays of him, and he brought up the idea of justice, the king Oedipus, and
Hmm.
he brought the idea of justice, and that's where it kind of start getting corrupted. The idea of this philosophy, because law gets introduced, the idea of justice introduced, authority introduced, and that's where it got corrupted, like completely corrupted, because now philosophy was done for the purpose of law, and if something has to be done for a purpose, then again the same thing, कर्म करो फल की चिंता मत करो. So
In technical
that's
terms, it is called NOBP now, non-output based processing. There's a very recent paper, Let's Verify Step by Step by OpenAI. They are working on this concept, and I just get very upset talking about humans in general. When I have to talk about machines, I'm very happy. But humans are way more annoying when I have to talk. Because human alignment is a bigger problem than AI alignment, because humans have gone chaotic. AI will go chaotic, but humans have gone chaotic now.
mm,
We have to
mm,
first come to neutral, and then we have to become good. But at this moment, AI is like neutral. It has not gone bad. We can make it good. Humans, because most of the times humans have not figured out themselves very properly as a society, as a collection. So what I think is, first they have to figure out themselves as society or civilization, and then they have to figure out how they will incorporate AI. And what you're saying, that there's the concept of philosophy comes into organizing humans as only. So that will not. There, I think now I've lost hope. I guess people say that I'm very much pessimistic with respect to humans. And I'm the one who always talks about how humans will go wrong. Humans are bad. So I guess I'm very pessimistic, but I don't think there's a good enough path to find good middlemen and also to appoint them.
mm,
So I have like,
mm,
humans are lost cause now. They will not go good any time. I don't find them. So this is the reason I came into this field of research. That humans are gone, they will have to go out of this earth. So better to make the next coming thing good, because it's like I have already lost humans. Evolution has lost once with humans. It should not lose again with machines. I have thought well about this thing. I have given wealth to this thing, but I have lost hope in humans now. They tend to do bad things more than good things.
so what you're saying, that you have lost hope on human, you're not the first one. Even Nisha also talks about, at the end of 19th century, he says that God is dead, not in the literal sense, but
I
he
have read
says
about
about
that.
why morality is not a precept of God now. And
Hmm.
then that is the point where he writes about beyond good and evil, because he says what is governing us now. There is no universal judgment that is taking over us,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
there's no God left, and
Hmm.
it has turned out to be a very chaotic society. And how do we govern that? What universal judgment do we rely upon,
Hmm. Hmm.
or
Hmm.
what is a person that we rely upon, because there's no one and there's no God. So
Basically,
where is our
yeah,
moral?
I read about all these things. I also, like, I watched videos, not read. And he was talking about the pen name losing its meaning. Like, God is basically pen name for philosophers to write their
Pen name.
philosophy. So pen name has lost its meaning, and that is what he meant through that. Like, he was obviously a writer as well. He know how to put words together. So basically, the pen name has lost its meaning, and now we cannot use a pen name because people have learned that this is a pen name, and people have
Pen
also
name.
learned that the original writers are not that valuable, because they will not give us the actual things that we want as society, all the chaotic thing, pleasure and all.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
he was basically at that moment. If AI safety would have been filled, he would have joined that.
Uh,
Because anyone who loses it or loses hope in humanity should find something to do, and what else to
yeah.
find?
Today I was talking about one of my friends about what is the universal truth. Like, if not the truth that we are looking at is real, then what is the universal truth? And then she comes up with an idea that can karma is the universal truth.
Truth is noun or verb?
Truth is a verb.
Okay.
She says that karma is the universal truth that we all are searching for, and it is the only thing that governs us. Like I told him about the idea of God being dead, and
Mm-hmm.
then later on she goes and she says that karma is the only thing that is governing us. Then I come up with a solution like I don't think karma is governing us. I think our conscious is governing us. We are conscious enough to think what is good and bad,
Mm.
and if even if someone is not governing us, then also we come to a conclusion, okay, that this is good and this is bad on the basis of our conscious. There,
Mm-hmm.
why does someone need to govern us? Why can't we govern ourselves? Like
Mm.
that's the idea of philosophy, to know ourselves and
Mm.
to realize ourselves that what we are, why are we here for.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
if that comes into play, there's no need of someone governing us.
There will always be need of someone to govern us because there is no us. In simple words, there will always, like, as soon as we define us, we are also defining someone else. Now I'm going to
Hmm.
panpsychism, oneness, Advait Vedanta. At the moment we define us, they will have to define other also. And the best way to be governed is by not being governed, and that is through being governed by someone else. In normal language, in expanded form.
Hmm.
First of all, the karma is philosophical term for causality. That's how I say it. Causality is the physics term.
Hmm.
Cause, effect,
Hmm.
simple, done.
Hmm.
Nothing more mystical in that. So causality is not
Hmm.
human thing. It's a physics thing. It's a universal thing. It happens with stars. It
Hmm.
happens with planets. It is not specific to humans. What you're saying, conscience. So conscience is also causality, and when we add awareness to causality, we get conscience. We only
Hmm.
have our conscience is defined by our awareness of causality.
Hmm.
If I'm not
Hmm.
aware of some bad things, I don't know how is that is a bad thing or good thing. I will if I get a new event, I will take that, I will compare it with my previous data set and the abstraction of previous data set, and if that abstraction says that this is a bad thing, then this is a bad thing. It's like that. So and the data set is found because of causality again. So basically, the karma thing, what she said was, I guess, right, that it's karma or it's causality at the very base. Because
Yeah.
first of all, anything that has the power to govern us cannot be just human, because human cannot develop a skill to uh, govern human. It should be something out of
Have-
human thing that is
Hmm.
applied to everyone. It should be something like gravity. It should not be something like politics, because politics is done by humans. It is invented by humans. It's like outside the box, inside the box. You cannot ever control the box by being inside the box. You have to get outside the box,
Box.
or you'll have to use
Hmm.
concepts of outside the box. So everything that human has made, everything, civilization, governance, law, everything that they are making through their intelligence, through their logic, will always be smaller than their subset concept. Will always be smaller than the logic. Will
Hmm.
be smaller than humans. So the thing that should be governing us, or that should be at base, should be not just human specific. It can be applied to humans, but it should be general. And that's why causality or karma,
Hmm.
that seems to be the best example in this. And consciousness is just the implementation of causality with respect to humans.
Only causality is governing us. That is not possible, na? How is that possible? Like, enlighten me about it. Like, how is that possible? Only casualties to govern us. Denying that exact fact when she said. So,
We do something, we get result of it, and we compare that set of result with our preferences, and how is our preferences formed by previous preferences.
hmm.
So it's all about, and like, causality only. A
Then
very
morality. Where does
morality,
morality stand on that?
it's the intersection of causality and consciousness, and awareness, that I was saying, conscience basically. And conscience
But
itself is causality only. Okay, this is what I, everything is causality at base. Like, there are two
hmm.
phases of causality. Okay, one is causality, pure physical causality,
Hmm.
happening in physics, gravity and all.
Hmm.
One is causality with
Hmm.
respect to humans, that is
Hmm.
specific to human experiences, but that is also the
Hmm.
conscious. This is what I'm calling conscience. That is also causality,
Conscience.
but human causality is conscience. When these two causalities meet, then we get karma. No, that will be a bad equation, but that is what is governing us. Causality plus human, like causality into human, and then that is what is governing us. what I'm saying is basically morality is an illusion of humans that they form from causality. That illusion, construct, whatever you wanna
Okay,
call it.
again so you are saying that morality cannot be a base in itself, right?
Because
What you're
morality is
saying is
representation of
subjective.
causality. Yeah, causality, representation of causality for humans. Because
Right.
everything that we call as moral or as a conscience is itself set of conscience, set of causalities that has happened to us. And when I say happen to us, then obviously I don't mean happen to us on an individual level. The whole culture thing, the whole evolutionary thing, how we are designed to understand languages of humans, but not designed to understand languages of animals, even if the animals are talking in front of us. So we are designed by that causality, evolutionary causality is also human causality. That's what I mean. So there is one very big like physical causality outside Earth, and there is one inside Earth
Mm.
causality, and the inside Earth causality is human's conscience.
Human that is working on a human level.
Hmm. That is working for a human level. It works on other levels as
For a
well.
human level, yeah.
For a human level, and when these both come together, then we have the all the thing that is governing us. We cannot kill other animal because the evolutionary causality stops us. We cannot jump from like height and still not die because the bigger causality is governing us. So both causalities govern us. I think that sometimes I will also like fall in that middleman problem. Neither a good philosopher, neither a good AI scientist. But I guess Marcus Aurelius is my aspiration. I could be a good philosopher, impactful philosopher, and impactful AI scientist. It is like that. I don't know
That
which path
might
will go.
be the
And about the basic thing that we were talking, that philosophy is for reality or reality is for philosophy. If we also include the concept of causality in this, then uh, reality can be understood as causality. So causality happens. We make
mm,
interpretations of, yeah, this can be formulated in this equation that we have.
mm, mm.
The human causality is basically philosophy, and the actual causality is
Human
basically
causality is
reality.
reality, exactly. Yeah. But I think it failed because we have not made the masses look outside the box. And yeah, that's it. You're
Okay,
saying?
that's a good point, but I again it's useless to do that. Computationally expensive. Why would you make a toaster do computation of a calculator? You can just tell it 5 minutes. You don't have to explain the concept of 5 minutes to a toaster. What is time? You just 5 minutes wait and then give me the bread. That's all. Milkman it does not need to look outside the box. And the problem of there's this debate that I have with Shukla that what is harder to be, Krishna or Shiv, engineer or scientist. So it is harder to be a good middleman. It is harder to be a good scientist. But again, that's a big debate of its own. What it is hard to look to be outside the box, to be inside the box. And being a middleman, sometimes I like to say being the middleman is hard, but again, that would be subjective to say, and I'll be biased.
We cannot say without being both, right?
Why the amount of middlemen is comparatively less compared to the extremes of philosophers. There are very less examples of good middlemen, like Marcus Aurelius being only one I can remember,
Mm.
but there are very, very good examples of good philosophers. Spinoza,
Mm.
Kafka, Acharya,
Mm.
Shankaracharya, all. So if we want to do some statistics or
Charvak.
reasoning, why is there difference, or why is the distribution is uneven between these two? Well, the distribution suggests that it is hard to be a middleman. The fun of this thing is when we start making correlation of these things with religion. Then religion becomes such fun thing to experience. Well, it seems like we talked about one topic for long. Well, majorly because you brought politics and all into it. Okay, so I guess we covered most of the topics. I'll have to just write you the equation of or the formulation of causality,
Yeah,
right? That
sure.
thing.